Hey, what is up? What is going on, guys? Joe here, 690 ADV, Radio 690 ADV. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about motorcycle adventure camping. We're going to dive into that a little bit. We're going to have some more segments on it. But this one is your home away from home. What do you take on your adventure? What do you pack? What are you going to sleep in? How many days are you going to be out? Those are the things you need to think about before you pick what you're going to stay in when you're on your adventure. Are you going to camp or are you going to stay in a hotel room? Anyway, before we get into that, don't forget, subscribe, be part of it. Or Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. Don't forget about our YouTube channel, youtube.com/690ADV. Anyway, on to the podcast. Adventure camping. You're home away from home. What are you going to do? How many days are you going to be out? What is your plan as far as what you're going to sleep in? Or how are you going to sleep? What is going to be your home and where are you going on your trip? It should dictate what you're going to take. Now, if you're going on your trip and you're going with a group of guys, how many days and what part of the country you're going to really, and what time of year will dictate a lot of what type of gear you're going to take. So you're home away from home. What kind of tent are you thinking about taking? A 1-man, a 2-man, a 3-man, or a 4-man? I've seen guys take 4-man tents. They just like to have a condominium when they're on their trips. They like to have all this room to sprawl out and put all their gear in there. Me, it depends. It really depends on where I'm going to go. That's going to dictate what I take. So, if I'm going desert camping, there's not a lot of things to attach to. So that makes me think, okay, what am I going to take so that I can actually pop my tent up, so that I can get in there and it's not going to basically collapse on me? Or what am I going to use as attachment points to allow me to erect or put my tent up? So there's different types of tents that are out there that you need to think of. So if you're in the Rockies, usually there's trees. If you are in the desert, there's usually a lot of sand, but there are a lot of rocks. Rocks can work to your advantage. Utah, both trees and sand with a lot of rock. So that's the thing. Do you need a freestanding tent, or can you get away with an ultralight tent like I do, which is like a teepee tent or a pyramid tent, where it has one pole? Now, the advantages of going with a single pole tent: super light, very packable, easy to set up, but the downsides to it are attachment points. How are you going to put it up? Because you have to attach the 4 corners, and then you have to put the one pole in the middle. If you don't have much to attach to, it can be kind of a booger. You got to get creative to attach that, because if you've never tried to put stakes in the ground in the sand, it's not very easy. So what do? I bring guy wires and extra wiring so that I can actually tie it to my points, and then I use rocks. Rocks works just fine. The downside is you have to find some decent sized rocks, and if you are caught in a storm, those rocks can give way sometimes. So you want to make sure that you try to anchor those rocks as best as possible. Or you go with a freestanding tent, which basically your freestanding tents, as everyone knows, it's 4 corners that usually crisscross. They can have, I've seen them as many as 8 poles, but usually it's 4 poles that actually hold the tent up, and then they clip into place. So the question is you're home away from home, do you want to go with something that's super light and very compact and packable? Or do you want to go with a freestanding tent? That's the questions you need to ask yourself. If you're going on a long vacation, depending on what type of rider you are and what type of comfort levels, as I like to say, that you want to have, that's really going to dictate what you probably will want to take. Anything outside of 2 weeks, I think I would probably want to go with a freestanding tent. I'm not sure what your your thoughts are on that. But if I'm staying somewhere under 14 days, my one pole tent is magnificent. It's awesome. It's so easy to set up. You just basically 4 corners, single trekking pole in the middle, throw your gear and you're done. It takes 5 seconds to set up. You're not having to sit there and, get all these poles out. And I can literally stuff it in my giant loot bag and it fits perfectly. And it's so easy to pack up day in and day out. It's very, very, very easy. And it dries super fast. So if there's any moisture or if it rains, makes it really, really nice. It just, it's so easy. The downside is the freestanding tents is when you break them down and you do have a lot of moisture. You got to take your rain fly, then you got to hang your rain fly up, and then you got to dry it out. You got to hang it in the wind, find somewhere to put it. Then you got to basically take your tent, you got to dry your undermat, and you got all these other things that you have to do. Because if you don't, and you go riding around, you got 2 things that are going to happen. You're either going to create mildew, or you're going to create a wet spot so that whenever you set it up the next night, it will probably be wet, and it's just going to start stinking after a while. So you want to keep that in mind. The other thing is if you're traveling, are you going to be doing any type of hotels or motels? Is that your thing? So really, you're home away from home, and when you're going out and doing these things, you just need to figure out how much of each and in what situation will dictate going to a motel. Usually we will never stay in a motel. We love to rough it. We like to get out in the dirt. We like to remember where we come from. And not only that, it's a guy thing. It's a lot of fun. Hotels, usually rain out. If we've been riding all day and we get tons and tons of rain and we get blasted, that's where we kind of draw the line. It's not so much setting up in the wet as much as it is if it's cold, can we make fire? If we can't make fire, that's it. It's kind of game off. I like to rough it, and I like to be able to try to, do the zombie apocalypse type deal. But at the end of the day, if you can't get warm, it sucks. It's not much fun. You're just going to be wet. Your gear's all wet. You're sending up in the wet. But if you can build a fire, that changes everything, because that means that you can dry things. You can go and basically cut down some limbs. You can basically create a drying rack. You can dry your jacket, your pants, your boots, all those things. And that's a big, big deal. So when you're out doing that type of stuff, those are the things that you really want to think about if you're going to go out and you're going to adventure camp while you're on your bike. So if you're new to riding and you're thinking about doing this type of stuff, really keep that in mind. What type of setup is going to give you the comfort level that you're going to be happy with? And I've done many, many camping trips where I was halfway into my trip and going, and I have chose the wrong tent. But guess what? When you're in it, you're in it. You just have to just deal with it and get through to the next side. My thing is the tent is the number one item for me that just takes up so much room. Its pack size can take up so much room because of the poles and all the things that you have with it. So that's something you have to keep in mind. If you're trying to keep your gear super tight and light, your tent is going to be a big, big deal. And then the next thing after that will be sleeping bags. We're not going to talk about sleeping bags, but we'll get into that, and we'll talk about the different types of sleeping bags. If you are getting into adventure camping, or if you're thinking about doing it, what are some really, really good brands of what you might want to do? So, home away from home, single pole, or do you want to go to freestanding? Or do you just want to get a motel the whole time? Thing is, sometimes when you're traveling, if you want to get off-road, there's not going to be a whole lot of motels. So, you're going to have to camp. Me, I try to keep it to a minimal of a 1-man to 2-man tent. Reason being is those tents usually pack down the smallest. You put them on your bike and they don't take up too much room. And you can adjust them to basically get them to fit on your bike to where you're not having to sit there and get too creative with all your other gear that you're going to be bringing along. Because remember, when you're on your bike, everything that you have is going to be on that bike the whole time that you're going. You don't want to just pull over and throw things in the trash. So the reason I went with a 1-pole or a single pole pyramid tent, you've probably seen it. It's on my YouTube channel. You can find it. It'll be under the 690 gear. It just works. It just works. It's light, it's thin, it's waterproof. It does a very, very good job. I've had it in 40 mile an hour winds, and it did magnificent. So, but I have also taken one-man single poles, not single poles, but multi-pole, that is a freestanding, and then I've done two-man, and I've took as much as a four-man. So the kicker is the bigger it is, the more cumbersome and painful it will be, not in the beginning, but towards the middle of the trip. That's where it will not be so much fun. And you have to basically keep breaking it down and setting it up on a day-to-day basis. So remember that. Whatever you take, set it up a few times before you go out on your trip, and make sure that you're okay with setting that thing up and down on a daily basis. Do basically pre-trip setup camps. Set it on the bike, pull it off your bike, set it up in your front yard or your backyard. Put all your gear in there, everything like you're going to do a camping trip. Do it about 2 or 3 times and make sure that you're comfy with it, because you remember, when you're on that trip, you're stuck with it. You're going to have to use that over and over and over again. And are you going to have the perfect setup? Probably not. But over time, you will learn what you can live with and what you can't live with. So remember, whenever you're taking your tent, remember, the more person the tent is, the bigger the packet's going to be. Keep that in mind. And the bigger it is, the more of a pain it will probably be. So find out the smallest you can get and get the comfort that you want out of the smallest that you can live with, and that will probably be your best situation. Anyway, so if you're doing your home away from home, think about those things. A one-man with a single pole, multi-pole, which is a freestanding, or you're going to do some motels. The choice is yours. There's no wrong decision. The thing is whatever you can be happy with and what you can live with, those are going to be the best things for you. So just remember where you're going, what part of the country, know what your attachment points possibly could be, and then that's going to be your best situation for basically setting up your tent. Anyway, my name's Joe, 690 Radio, 690ADB, youtube.com/690ADB. Also, don't forget, we're on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We have tons of videos on YouTube. Don't forget about that. Hit subscribe. Make sure you're part of it. And if you have anything, and you got any questions, or if you have a suggestion for a podcast, 690ADB@gmail.com. And I appreciate your time. You guys have a fantastic day, and think about those things if you're going out adventure camping, because your tent is your home. You guys have a great day. 690 out.